Hello everybody, how you doing? So I've been thinking a lot this week about artistic freedom and privacy and how I guess sometimes those two things clash. So I don't know if you're aware, there's been a very interesting situation happen this last week and a little bit in London at St Pancras Station, which is a great big mainline station here. It's the connection between the UK and Europe. So basically, long story short, what happened, and you can check out all this online. There's a public piano that was donated by the musician Sir Elton John that people can sit down and just play. The pianist called Brendan Kavanagh sits there a lot and he does live streams and he plays music. It's actually quite a lot of fun. When I run into him a few times, it's definitely worth checking out. But he was sitting at the piano doing one of his YouTube live streams. And what happened was he was approached by a group of people all dressed in red, carrying Chinese red flags. And at first they looked as though they were enjoying his live stream, but then they very quickly got very angry with him when they saw his cameras, demanding he take things down, demanding he stop filming in the station. And it escalated into a situation where they started yelling at him, accusing him of touching one of the members of their group, which was completely incorrect. He definitely didn't do that. And it's very, very clear on the live stream that documented it all. But the police became involved. There's criticisms how the police have handled this as well. And it's made me think over the last week a lot about artistic freedom versus our people's right to privacy, and then indeed censorship as well. One of the things that I think is rather worrying once people have started dissecting the footage is that they found there's a lady in the background who's a part of this group who was outed as a local mouthpiece of the Chinese Communist Party in the UK, and she had been caught out trying to influence people in politics and doing all sorts of stuff. Now, the group of Chinese people in question, I believe they're a group of tourists, some of them, and there was a guy who was a guide. He's the guy who starts yelling, "Don't touch her."
Why you're touching her? Stop touching her! Don't touch her, please.
Hashtag don't touch her if you haven't come across that. And they claim that they were there to do a Chinese New Year celebration and record a video at the piano. Anyway, this group claimed that he was being racist and infringing their right to privacy and all sorts of other things. Now, to me, personally, watching the video back, and I'll let you decide, you should definitely go and check it out. I'll leave a link to the original video in the description for this one. But to me, it didn't look like he was being racist. He's a bit cheeky and he was playing it up for the camera, but he genuinely seems to be in the right here. And ultimately, the claims they make about the rights they think they have don't apply under British law, which is incredibly important. This started a sort of a chain reaction in my head. One of the things that I've run into a lot when filming in the UK is that there is a general lack of understanding of what the laws are and the rules are about your right to film in public. Indeed, not just with people who are filming, but even more importantly, with the authorities that actually have to enforce those. And I think that was shown very, very clearly in this video, that the police didn't quite know what his rights to film in public were.
In this clip, you'll notice the police officer actually tries to stop them from filming twice, despite the fact that on the Met Police website, it's very clear that public are allowed to film the police.
Now, I've had to do a lot of public filming in the UK, both for my own uses and for my clients as well. So I'm very familiar with the laws, which basically state that if you're in a public place, you can film without any permits in a group of up to 5 people. Well, in this case, Brendan and his camera person are just 2 people, so they're well within their rights to film within that space. And that's another important thing to know. Whether you're somebody who's filming or somebody who's walking past a camera, in the UK, you don't actually have rights to your own image. You can't just say, "Stop, talk to my agent," or "You can't film me," unless somebody is then taking your image and using it for commercial purposes. That's to say, if someone filmed me in public and then used me as an advertisement for, I don't know, this hoodie or this cup or whatever other product they were trying to sell. But if I was just filmed walking past, in most cases, I don't have any recourse to stop people or ask them to take things down. This changes from country to country, as I mentioned, state to state, so it is always worth checking wherever you live. But certainly in the UK, that's the rights people have. There are also certain places that appear to be public, but are in fact privately managed as well. And sometimes security guards will have more power than you think they will in those places. So it can be a little bit of a minefield. One of the big takeaways, I think, from this is, as a creator, as an artist, as somebody who is filming out in public, if you are doing that, is definitely knowing exactly what your rights are in any given space. And it changes from country to country, even city to city and local authority to local authority. I think perhaps then the other sort of slightly worrying part of all this is that members of a foreign political party or representatives of a foreign government feel emboldened enough to come up to people in a country like the UK and tell them to do things and comply with a Chinese law, for example. So the idea that this could sort of start to become more prevalent was very interesting to me, and I sort of wondered what the ramifications were under international law, and I looked this up. And for any artists and performers, and again anybody who does anything in public that captures other people and sort of could be worried about this in the future, you might be heartened to know that we're protected by not one but several different international laws that protect the freedom of artistic expression under basic human rights laws that have been ratified by the United Nations, among other things. International law does protect your right as a performer, not only to put artistic works out there, but then also to make money off of them as well, which is very interesting and could sort of clash with some of the privacy laws, but nevertheless is what it is. And again, in the UK, you can film anyone, anywhere, unless it's on private property, where the laws change. But yes, a very interesting little caveat there, that you can't stop somebody on public property pointing a camera onto your private property. Obviously, Chinese law is very different, and everybody there seems to have a right to protect their own image. That's not something we have here in the UK. I'm not a legal expert though, so I could be wrong. But it's a fascinating situation that's played out. And when I say played out, although it looked like it's all wrapped up, and the guy who was yelling "Don't touch her" is making t-shirts and poking fun, there is another situation going on now, and that is the situation with how YouTube can potentially handle this. And basically, Brendan Kavanagh has been inundated with copyright strikes and complaints submitted through YouTube to try and take these videos down. And I would be very interested to see how YouTube handle this over the coming days and weeks and even months, and whether it does turn into some sort of bigger international incident, because potentially it is a foreign political party making complaints about this. What exactly YouTube will do, how they'll handle this situation, will be an interesting indicator of how much they will back free speech. As an American company from a country that prides itself on being the place that stands up for freedom and freedom of speech, but how this plays out, I think, will be an interesting sign for any creator on the platform about how they'll handle this kind of thing in the future as well. So look, that is the Pianogate incident. Hashtag
don't touch her.
I thought it was really relevant to anybody out there who might be creating works of art that involve creation in public places. And I think situations like this are really important for anybody who's an artist, anybody who's a creator of any kind, to stay abreast of and make sure aware of what is going on. You could be hit by someone trying to claim that you've infringed their rights, and it is good to know your rights in whatever territory or country you live in. Also, with the international nature of the internet and YouTube and how all this stuff plays out, there's a very interesting dilemma that if you make a video in a country like the UK, for example, and that goes onto a platform that distributes it into a country like, I don't know, China, for example, then what are your legal rights? Where does it stand? Do you have to worry about being liable for things that get played in another country or not? Hopefully our rights to the freedom of artistic expression under international law count for something and protect us, but it's a crazy world. Who knows? Anyway, I'll leave it there. Thanks for watching, and more videos coming very soon. Take care.
I hope you enjoyed the video and you got something out of it, and you know what I'm going to ask you to do. If you enjoyed it, hit that like button, hit subscribe, and join me on this creative journey. It's going to be amazing, and I can't wait to share it with you, with tips and tricks and creative processes and all sorts of fun stuff. But look, I hope to have you watching next time. Take care and keep being creative.